Hi, welcome to a midweek update. This is Kim Watson speaking for Ezeetrader. Okay, before I get on to some analysis, let's just cover a subject which is very dear to my heart because it's something I believe in very strongly, and it's something that we've been talking about in the room, and it's interesting how different people approach trading. Now, I'm just going to a blank chart here, and I'm just going to squiggle over it a little bit because I think there's there's some important aspects of trading that people are very aware of, and there's sort of two key points really. There's the one is the sort of technical analysis side of things, and there's the second part, which is the personal side of things, which Charlie talks about a lot in the psychology. So that there's this sort of double aspect. Now, some people major on the left-hand side. Don't get me left-hand, right-hand brain, forget about that, but I'm just left-hand on my chart here, on my screen here. And some will spend a little bit more time on this side. Of course, people spend far too little time in general on this side because generally the where they learn from and everything else, the weighting, if you like, is significantly more biased towards the technical analysis or fundamental analysis, whichever way they're trading, but it's more on the analysis side. However, I'm in this middle area here personally because I strongly believe in good technical analysis, but of course, I also the personal aspect. But I believe that there's a thing that a lot of people miss, is the fact that how you bring them together, because bringing them together is the key for me of trading. It's so often overlooked. There'll be a lot of focus on either the personal side or the psychology. There'll be a lot of focus on technical. Now, generally in midweek updates and things, I'm quite technical, so I'll talk on the technical side, and it's really a balancing side of things because Charlie covers a lot of the very, very important psychology side of things. So it's a bit of a balancing aspect, but there is this meeting part, and when you think back to how you start trading, you get taught something, and you'll get the background, if you like, the fundamentals, the base. I say the fundamentals of trading. You get the basics, and then you gradually work into this sort of point to where you feel like you're in a position to start trading, and off you go. Now, what many traders do, and I mean many, is this is the point that they never get beyond in some respects, because of course at that point the personal and the side of things takes over so much that they get this complete confusion aspect, and it's probably where where for me a lot of them may just get stuck, but there's certainly, as I say, there's some things in terms of getting the psychology right. And part of it, you need to ensure that you understand what you're doing on the analysis side of things. And as I say, this is why on the technical analysis, people get there, they get into a certain point, they're ready to trade, they start trading, and they just get a little bit confused, and maybe the psychology then takes over too strongly, and we come out of balance again. It's either one way or the other. It's just not working for them, and it is just getting this absolute balance. And what I've noticed is some traders, now I'm not going to say they're always the best of traders, but by far, but one thing they do is they understand the psychology, and it may be that you need to understand the psychology before you go back then and prove things to yourself. Understanding a strategy, that's taught by Charlie and myself. We all teach you some really, really good strategies, and that's great. But what I notice is some of the people that seem to grasp it a little bit more, they take the strategies, they understand the psychology, but then they take the strategies and they reinforce things for themselves. And this is done in itself by testing. So we get onto one of my old hobby horses of back testing. And is there an easy way Yes, there's an easy way. You can take what we teach you, trade it, and just believe in it fully, and maybe the psychology will be fine, and you'll grasp it. Some people just struggle at that. As I say, they get to this level, they get on this sort of unbalanced sort of situation, and it may be for them that they need to balance things up a bit by taking it a step further, getting into this sort of peak performance point of view, by literally going into the stage of testing, and as I say, going back and understanding the numbers for themselves. And as I say, it comes back to this mixture of technical analysis and belief. If you can actually believe in what you're seeing, and it's not just the fact that we told you it's working well, you can actually see it, and you take it to that sort of next degree and test it, and you can. It somehow should, and I say should because you still got to get the psychology right, but it should reinforce the beliefs of, okay, I've got this side right. Now it's just a case of how I manage this side here, because it's all of a sudden you've got this sort of the benefit of a higher understanding of what you're doing on this side, so that you can, as I say, bring the points together. And then it's really a case of just leaving it and doing it, and getting on with it. And as I said to the guys in the trading room many times, is sometimes this personal side is on the personal or the psychology side of things, is once you've done this, you place the trade, you put your stops in positions in, and you walk away, or you get on with something else, or you look for other opportunities. So it's to me, a question for you perhaps: are you backtesting at the moment? Do you need help backtesting? Do you need some understanding of how to backtest and what we should be looking for? Because that in itself, as I say, it's a subject very dear to my heart, because I believe in it strongly. Because for me, it's something that builds this belief system that to ensure that you can actually leave something and go away, and it will work or it won't work, but it's a bit of a percentage game. And if you're playing the percentages and you've got the risk reward all shaped up, we know that we can make money, and we know from the absolute stats from brokers, not just what we're telling you in our strategies, but the results from what brokers are saying. I covered this a month or two ago, where we looked at FXEM's figures and data, and it showed that traders are pretty good at this side of things in the main, but the psychology duffs it up a little bit for them, so they get to that sort of unbalanced stage. And if they've just believed in their figures, but they don't believe in it, possibly because they've never done it, and it's just that extra, as I say, that extra bit which may be needed to be done sometimes to balance it up. Now it's to say, there's no exact chemistry in it. Some people just find it easy, and others, some people, you can just leave them here. They've got sufficient here in terms of they just leave it and do it, and they don't care, and it works. And it's just people will have different traits and different personal traits, different ideas, a different build in their belief systems, and they'll get on and do it. But what I'm saying is, if you're stuck here, you've got the idea, you know what your strategy is, but you just need that little bit of extra belief in what you're doing, so you can just take it and leave it and let it run. Sometimes it's frustrating. Sometimes I this week, for example, I'm trying to let some things run, letting some things run and then getting stopped out. But that's all about the percentage game. Some of those are going to get stopped out. We know they'll go to a different level, and it may be okay. Technically, there may be a reason why they did, fine, but the important thing is, I know the ones that will run will more than make up for any that I've broken even on, or made a small profit, or even lost on the bigger runners, etc. Because I've now tested it, they're going to win. So it's just that personal belief, and as I say, it comes back to testing. Big thing. If you, as I say, need help, want to talk about it more, just drop us a note on the feedback here. Okay, enough of that. I think I'll get off my hobby horse there, and let's have a look at the markets very briefly. And What do we have then? Well, we're having on the euro dollar. We're in a bit of a crunch time for me at the moment, in terms of, I believe that we're at this sort of pivotal area. I mentioned it, I think, last week. We're sitting about that 1.1 area. It's whether or not now we can whether the market breaks down here, which there's a reasonable possibility. I think the markets were expecting Draghi to be a bit more bearish today than that he actually was, and the fact that he wasn't that bearish, we've seen the euro sort of move back up. It was quite choppy this morning, and say sometimes these days just don't work out in terms of what I'm looking for, but we ended up in this sort of relatively, as I say, bullish day in the end. In a sense, it's bounced off its daily 50. But once things settle down again, are we going to go back into this trend, which is certainly looking down from the intermediate side of things, 4 hourlies and below, or is it really going to start sort of getting another bounce off here and stay on this, as I say, on this pivotal area here? Is it going to stay on the sort of more bullish side of that area? But personally, I get a feeling we may still be on for the downside. It has triggered a bit of a swing low on one of my strategies, and I'm just believing that, well, it could still come off some more. Okay, that's purely on that. Is, as I say, broken this trend line here from the daily's point of view, and it's really, I think the key decider there really is if it breaks that 108 area, if it breaks that previous low, well then really there's a chance we'll come back to these prior lows here at 108, 18 sort of area. Okay, the pound. Again, broken a daily trend line here, really looking quite bearish now. And again, it's probably more so because the more recent sort of pivotal area here is just chunked through it today, and it looks like, well, it could break through the early month lows there. So there's certainly a possibility. And as it's closing towards the end of the bars each day, it just looks relatively bearish. Maybe we'll get a bounce at these lows here. It's quite, again, a pivotal area, that sort of 151 area, 152 area, quite pivotal in the markets for the pound. You've seen plenty of points either side of that going back. You can see the sort of the lows here, the prior highs, and it's quite key. So if it does break down there, well, maybe then it will push down a bit further. There is this sort of gradual belief again that perhaps something will happen in the US still this year. Okay, dollar yen still in its chop zone. To me, it's difficult to see it going out of this at the moment. Again, if we see anything more constructive, say constructive but more detailed, coming from the US, maybe we'll see this sort of wedge be broken, and that may then give us a bit of a few days of trend again. But it's certainly very choppy at the moment, and as I say, difficult to really decide on which way it's going to go. Aussie dollar erring towards the weak side still, and to me, I think it's still got the potential of further downside. It's coming back to those lows at around about 69.06 sort of area. That could well be seen as we could see another low break of this at the moment. It's particularly bearish at these sort of this double point here, and it's, as I say, selling off again. So could well see the lows taken out. From a monthly perspective, we could come right the way down to the SS2 area, the 68 area. Again, when you start going through this, it's getting quite. You really got to be looking back at the history to see where we go and been before here. If you go back to the monthly area, let me just get rid of the pivots for a second. Clean a chart up. We've been right down to the one back in 2009. The lows are sort of sitting at that 0.6 area. You've got to. I mean, it is a fundamental view I'm taking of this. Bearing in mind the China slowdown, it could just kick over and have more of an effect yet on the Australian dollar. So, really seeing this trend continue at the moment. Okay, that's pretty much it for me. I hope you have a great rest of the week, and I'll be back next week, next midweek update. Bye for now.